Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Friday lunchtime live. So good to have all of you with us. We're only going live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook today because of the setup we're going to be having here. So we're going to give anyone on Instagram an extra minute or so just to make sure they're on the right platform and join us. So you've got myself and Molly today.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about corporate workwear. Many of you may have attended the event we had a couple of weeks ago, but we know some of you couldn't make it, had lots of questions, and we've had lots of follow-up questions as well. So we really want to get into this opportunity for you today. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what the opportunity is, how to approach it, defining what corporate workwear is, and then Molly's going to do some testing for you to show just how easy it is to decorate onto different corporate workwear products.
Yes, we are fusing today. We're not just going to sit here and talk at you for an hour. We are definitely going to be doing some decorating. Before we do that, while we let everyone join from Instagram, maybe who's coming over, what was your favorite part of the event?
I think for me, the favorite part was actually just trying to learn a bit more about this market. Truthfully, we've not covered it much on the lives or our content, but actually as we delved into it, it's like, oh, wow, this is a big, big opportunity for everyone to actually do something new.
Yeah, we knew how big it was, but we didn't know how big it was at the same time. We researched before the event, obviously, but then when we obviously brought Stanley Stella in and we were looking at the numbers and the statistics, it kind of hit us as well, didn't it? As well as everyone else in the room.
And I think what the good thing about doing these lives and a lot of the content we make is we do it because we really want to help people. And it's like, oh, wow, it's kind of a light bulb moment. Like, here's something we can do to actually help people. We always try and make sure that we're always providing value to everyone. But I was like, oh, okay, there's big opportunities here. This is quite interesting. And actually, there's an actual real shift in trend and demand, like more so than anything that we've seen for a little while, I think, to be honest. So that's why we want to really delve into the subject and give you a little bit of an insight. So just to kind of kick stuff off, if anyone has any questions, please, leave a comment, get involved. We'd love to hear what your opinion of corporate workwear is, whether you think you're doing corporate workwear, whether you haven't touched it. If you haven't got involved, why not? That's what I'd really like to know. One of the things that was quite notable for when we did the live event was, I'd say maybe 5% of people put their hand up when they said like they're actually doing corporate workwear.
Yeah, the workwear market, like as in industrial construction, that kind of stuff, that was ridiculously high. Almost everyone in the room put their hands up for that. But the corporate workwear market, that one was a lot quieter. Yeah, so something that we really want everyone to start thinking about is, what is corporate workwear? Where are you perhaps missing out on corporate workwear opportunities? So to your point, I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, if lots of you are decorating sort of traditional workwear, people who are actually doing building site work or electricians, plumbers, etc., start thinking about, okay, what building are they making? Who's going to be in that building? Who's going to be actually present in that building? Where do these customers go and get involved with their customers, because there's always a bigger opportunity, a layer above, where there's opportunity for you to take advantage of, and probably you might already have those contacts already.
I'll add on that as well, for even if you are printing for plumbers, electricians, and those types of customers, I completely agree with everything that you just said. Think beyond the scope of those customers. However, also think about the garments and the decoration methods you are offering those customers as well, because I didn't realize it until we had, Stanley Stella come in and show us certain garments. But even polos now, there's so many different versions of polos, different fabrics, different finishes. It's not a case of just plain black or white anymore. They're not scratchy. Some of them are nice. You've got some more like acid wash ones. There's so many different options that you can have in more industrial workwear as well as corporate workwear from the blank garment suppliers now.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get into, is the trends around demand have changed, and also the quality of blank garment to actually decorate on has changed, the tailoring, the fitting, etc. There's a big change in the whole market, the whole recipe that goes into creating corporate workwear.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a big market.
It is, and just to give some numbers on that, is that just in the UK, the corporate workwear market is worth, the workwear market is worth over 300 million every single year. And 46% of that is actually corporate workwear. So a much higher percentage of this market is actually already dedicated to corporate workwear. think about, everyone that joined us for winter warm-up last year. I know we've done a lot of follow-up events around jackets. Is anyone that's had success off the back of that, selling expensive jackets last winter, these are the same customers that are going to want the products we're going to talk about today and the styles that we're going to talk about today. So some of you might have already started that journey. If not, this is all part of that same package. We're going to help you build a bigger pack. So 138 million in UK is already existing, but there is some real shifts in trends as well. So this number is going to grow and it's going to become bigger. So anyone is thinking, like, what is a manageable opportunity for me? So 0.1% of that, 138,000. There's a lot of t-shirts, shirts.
I feel like you didn't say that with enough emphasis. What's the number?
So 0.1%, 138,000. So that could be a
lot of people.
That's a tiny percentage of the whole market. That can make a big difference to many of you listening and watching, I'm sure.
Yeah. I feel like everybody knows now whenever we do events, that's like your go-to line or like statistic, but it's so effective because it is so true in terms of how much of the market you need to capitalize on to actually make a profit. And like, if you've got 138,000 orders, you would probably be able to handle them anyway, and that's 0.01% of the market.
That's always the thing with any of these new ideas that we like to present, is actually like how make sure you're focused, but really focused down into what's manageable, what's achievable. We told you, there's 138 million, you can go and get it. Like, that's not true.
People are like, well, where do I start with that?
Yeah, it's too big a, task to target the whole market. But just don't be too greedy with it. Be realistic. Think about, okay, who have I got in my existing customer base? Am I like something a bit different? Or again, I'm working with these builders, and there's a law firm, and some solicitors have just gone into that building, but they all need corporate workwear as well, because trends around workwear in general have all changed. So there's so much more you can offer than you could a year ago, 18 months ago, that it's really worth thinking about it. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about some of these numbers in terms of how people are thinking about it, because there's been a real change in a lot of big companies, a lot of tech companies, your Amazons, and a lot of banks, JP Morgan, BlackRock, Barclays. Many of these businesses have told their employees they've got to go back to the office. So some 5 days a week, some of them at least 3 or 4. So there's been a driving sort of trend from actual employers, which is one thing.
And the big companies as well, not
big
just
companies,
locals.
So, and this is going to be something that probably affects, has a trickle down on sort of the medium size, small size, because they're either going to be could go completely hybrid as a kind of competitive twist on that, or they're going to follow suit. So that's a big element of it, So, but there's also a real shift in terms of how people are approaching that, because many people have now been told, oh, you've got to go back to work. Anyone that might have been worked through COVID and following on from that, there's been a lot of either remote or hybrid working. But coming with that means is that the trends in terms of fashion, how you approach that, are completely different. So lots of places and employees have started to perhaps wear more casual garments at work, because they've only got to be in the home office, they've got to be on camera sometimes, so you might have a wardrobe change
or something like that.
But really, you might have jogging bottoms underneath, depending on how you approach
no judgment.
No judgment at all. Exactly.
I absolutely don't do that.
So it's worth thinking about. So those people are now starting to think about, okay, what does this mean to us? So that means that they're now thinking, oh, I've got to go back to work. I've forgotten what that even looks like.
I think the camera battery might have died. I don't think it's the wire.
Okay.
I think it's the battery.
So we're still going on audio.
We're still on audio.
So we'll keep talking to everyone, because now everyone that's being affected by this sort of slight or moderate shift back to a working from the office is now thinking, I don't know how to do that, or I like this comfort that I've got used to again, because actually I feel more productive in perhaps something looser fitting, or just having a bit more of my own identity in my day-to-day.
That's the biggest thing, I think, is feeling like yourself in whatever you're wearing. I think the biggest mistake that corporate workwear made initially was to try and fit everybody into one personality or into one outfit, into one style, and assume that everyone was going to work at their best in something that they didn't feel 100% comfortable in. And I love the fact that that's changing now, and the things that we are allowed to wear to work do mimic our style a bit more. And I mean, even if you look at what the two of us are wearing today,
Yep.
it's the same shirt, yes, but it's different in terms of style, how we styled our uniform at the workwear event.
Yeah.
We all had the same shirt on, but we all styled it differently to our personalities and our preferences. And I think that's not only going to make a difference to how people work, but going back into the office, what they wear and what they choose to put on.
Yeah, so your corporate workwear of 2019 is no more, you know, we were guilty of this as much as anyone. You know, before I started, we'd go to shows in very polyester heavy shirts, scratchy, you know, not the sort of thing you feel comfortable wearing, or, you know, you kind of almost dread having to wear that at a show.
Yeah.
But these trends have changed now, and the way people approach these have changed now. But it means that, you know, employers and employees are looking for answers. Employees are like, what do I wear? And employers are like, what do I tell them to wear?
Yeah, what do I give them as an option?
So, for example, this is just in the UK, the search for workwear outfit ideas has actually grown 1,876%.
On like Google
year on
and
year.
stuff like that, yeah.
So that is something that is not normal. That is a significant change in people looking for this information. And I can tell you, you know, having one of the reasons we did this the event before, and now we're doing this, having this conversation now, is that there's not enough information out there about that, especially for garment decorators and how to approach that. But it does mean the demand is there.
Yeah.
So you know, anyone that's listening to this, watching this, you could be the first ones to take advantage of this opportunity, because that is, you know, where the normal search might go up maybe like 10, 20%, or certain topics might trend for a short period of time, but 1,800% increase is massive.
A big number. It's a very big number.
It's a very big number. And, you know, things like the term smart casual, for instance, is now seeing 8,000 monthly searches in the UK, which is a 406% year-on-year increase. So again, you know, where employers are perhaps, okay, we need people back in the office for whatever reason, and then, okay, people might say, what do I wear? Or they're like, what should I tell them to wear? And they're like, smart casual, because like it's
and you're like, what does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything. You know, it could mean anything, but it's like, well, we give you an answer.
What would you say smart casual is?
Honestly, probably marginally smarter than what, maybe like shoes instead of trainers on top of this.
Really?
It's hard. It's like,
I can't imagine you in anything other than Nikes.
Exactly.
So that's Andy's smart
that's why
casual.
it's a very loose term.
Yeah.
It means different things to different people. So, you know, probably it's a sort of term that should just be like thrown in the bin, really, because no one really puts any true meaning behind it.
It's generational.
It is very generational. It should be something that's clearly defined. Of smart casual means this, and this, but it's a bit of a like cop out term to be like, we don't know the answer, or we just want you to be smarter. You could just be like, so is it a opportunity to educate people? And anyone that's listening, you know, you've got to be, if you want to make money from this, you've got to be a little bit of a thought leader when you're having these sales pitches to come, people. And that's why we want to help you today, just to talk about this. But do yourself a favor, you know, go online, if you go to Instagram and go to TikTok and just start looking for workwear, corporate workwear, because there is a real influencer situation as well.
Yes.
So there's lots of influencers that, you know, ultimately they've managed to turn corporate workwear into a full-time job, essentially, because they are now influencing these people that are going back into the work so much.
Yeah.
They're providing a lot of good information.
I follow a lot of them.
There you go. So that's it. But you look for the right hashtags and you look into it. It's a bit of a rabbit hole, but there is a wealth of information. It's just that's where a lot of the information is, and a lot of the influence is, in terms of what trends you need to follow, what products you need to offer to your customers.
Yeah.
That's a good place to find it.
It's a big change in not just the trend in corporate workwear, but the trend in retail as well. And I feel like everything that I'm personally seeing and everything that comes up on like my social feeds and when you Google things, it's all like a merge of those two topics together.
Yeah.
And that's where it's heading almost.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess maybe a question for you then, Molly, is now that we've been doing a lot of content around it, we've been doing a lot of events around corporate workwear, and you know, you see more of the new products and perhaps others, or we see them earlier.
Yeah.
What has changed from your mindset or your perception of workwear in the last couple of months?
I feel like I don't hate the idea of wearing it anymore, which is a great place to start. I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that I never really hit that era of wearing the scratchy shirts. I sort of wasn't here when that was a thing. I didn't have to do the trade shows in the scratchy shirts. We went straight in with hoodies and printed t-shirts, which was great. So I almost feel like I'm coming at it from another side. I'm going from like super casual into workwear rather than old corporate into existing. But like even the shirts that we're wearing today, they don't feel overly workwear or corporate. They're quite like, I would wear an oversized white shirt from an H&M or a Zara or somewhere like that. So it does feel very like normal for me to reach for that and go, oh, I'll style this with jeans or, you know, whatever else. In terms of what I would say is change for people that maybe work from hybrid is the comfort side of it, being comfortable in what you wear to the office every day after being in jogging bottoms, pajama bottoms, whatever you wear underneath the camera versus whatever's on the top half. And making sure that there's enough options for people to look smart but be comfortable at home as well. So we need to build, like you said before the event, 2 different types of wardrobes or packages for people to sell. You're in the office 5 days a week, you're in the office 2 to 3 days, at home 2 to 3, and then maybe people that maybe just go in 1 day a week that would like a more fully like remote wardrobe, if you like. But that's definitely the minority now.
I think that's the biggest thing for me is it's the tailoring of a lot of the blanks now that's changed. There's a reason a lot of the blanks companies are starting to bring out Oxford shirts again. Something, they probably wouldn't have spoken about for a while, or it's just, it's a product that just kind of took care of itself for a little while as well. But
didn't really need attention. People just accepted that's what it was and went with it.
Yeah, the companies that might be buying that just, repeat order for the most part. They look around and price, but style not so much. But these shirts are very comfortable. Like,
they're great
normally
quality.
if we were like, we need to do a video about corporate workwear,
well, we probably wouldn't.
we probably wouldn't, or we'd do the video and like quick change back. But like, I would probably just go back to my desk now and not work.
You had a shirt. You had a blue shirt on the other day that wasn't the workwear one that we printed, but it was identical. And from the corner of your office, I thought you were wearing that one. So you wear them anyway. Like case in point.
Yeah, and you can. So what we want to do cover and think about is like, it's not just a case of offer shirts now. It is a little bit more. It's much more nuanced than that, because you really need to understand the culture of something. So if you're listening to us thinking, 138 million in UK workwear market, I could take a tiny piece of that. Anyone that's got a heat press, it's easy to decorate corporate workwear. Like, this is not.
Which we'll cover later on.
We'll cover how to approach them, the slightly more difficult ones like polo shirts, but for the most part, it's easy. The good thing as well is that layering is a big part of it. So that's rather than just like a shirt, it's normally like a t-shirt and a shirt like we have today. So good news is 2 prints.
2 prints, two tops, price points, profit opportunities.
It's easy. You can build out your pack even bigger than you might have done before as well. So that's something to think about is, what are you going to offer them, but make sure it fits in with their culture. So if you're approaching a customer, find out what their approach to hybrid and office working is. That's where you need to really build your pack out and build it from what the customer wants, not what you want to offer them. So don't just go like, who wants a shirt?
Also, on the topic of that, can you reach that beigey Oxford shirt from where you are? Because the one thing I didn't mention was the colours. Thank you. This is the shirt that we wore for Workwear Reimagined, the actual event. And even, I would say the blue that you're wearing is still quite new. It's, I would say, a bit more modern, if you like, in 2025. But black and even white to an extent are quite standard. But this neutral colourway is something that has been breaking through in t-shirts and hoodies and sweatshirts. The last few print run promotions we've been to, they've been more neutral tones, Bella Canvas, Audis, like all of those brands have brought out a much more neutral range. But this is the first time I've seen it in a corporate workwear fashion, I remember, and I love it.
Grace from Try-Dry, when she was here, was saying that actually similar sort of colour palette to that was actually like, I think it was like their 3rd best-selling colour for most of their offering at Try-Dry, which again is like new, but this is something it's new corporate workwear. It's changed, and it's also about like, this is comfy. If you could have a conversation with a business and then get them to try it and like give them some different sizes to try on. If someone put that on, they'd be like, oh, my perception of this changes like in an instant.
Like, I'll wear this
straight away. You're going to change. So think about what their culture is to are they all work from home? Are they hybrid? Are they office based? Because you want to, like, okay, let's say, try and figure out how many days in the office they are. And I would use that as my starting point for how I build out the pack, the offering. So let's say, for example, they're every day in the office. But what is their approach to how maybe have clients in, or what do they want to do? So maybe it's like a 4-1 split, something like that. So I would say.
You mean in terms of 4 more casual ones and then an option for if you have a customer in, or the other way around?
It could be, it could be either way. So that's why it's really important to understand what your customers' brand values are, or perception of them as a business. If it's somewhere a bit more of a professional service, shall we say, it's probably going to be 4 smart, and then maybe Friday's a little looser.
Yeah, like you can swap your shirt for a polo if you're,
or maybe your hoodie,
Friday,
because they're not, clients aren't coming in, or it's just a bit more relaxed, or it's somewhere that might finish early on a Friday.
Yes.
So it's less of a concern. Or if they're like a real 50-50 hybrid, then you might want to provide them 3 smart days and 2 very casual days for the at-home days. But you want to carry on the branding and provide them something nice.
Yeah, so they're still branded when they're on camera, even if they're at home.
Yeah, but it's thinking about if they completely work from home, it might be just then it's definitely probably here's a smart shirt and a t-shirt. But if it's a Teams call or a Zoom with an important client, and you really need to smarten up and have a bit more of a corporate image, and then the other 3 or 4 days you might be t-shirts, hoodies.
So would you say that's
crews.
like what you're wearing now, what we're wearing, the shirts, that's a bit more formal? You could maybe go with a jacket if you needed it, and then for the more casual days, a polo or a t-shirt. Let's talk specifics.
Yeah, so I think if we're going for a reasonably smart, I think this is pretty smart. I think this is a good events look as well. I think we all look pretty smart at the Workwear Reimagined event.
Yeah.
But we've just got a simple branding. We've gone for some silicone on this one. For anyone that's just listening, it's a blue shirt with a white silicone, and I've got a white t-shirt underneath. You can't see it, but I've got a black ink transfer on it. So very simple branding, very easy to decorate. But it has a very smart perception. So if you're going to go and pitch these customers and you're going to be in person or on a video call with them, I would suggest going this sort of more corporate version of it, because you want to, if you perhaps meet the MD or anyone in that kind of level, they probably want to go smarter for most days, not 5 days a week, because that's a perception that they want to give out to employees. But you can, the shirt could be partly buttoned up, it could be not at all buttoned up.
So, I hate buttoning them up. I never button them up.
Something that we didn't do is say, you have to wear this colored jeans or anything to go with it.
Or that's how you have to wear that shirt.
Yeah, it's here's a nice shirt, it's comfortable, it's good, it's a good fit, it's true to size, here's a t-shirt to go with it. And then it gives people a chance to put just enough of their own personality into it, depending on what makes them comfortable. We're standing next to heat presses, so personally I'm going for a button up because it's probably more flattering that way. But then again, anyone that's watching, you could pair it with a bomber, or
which is really nice,
and
by the way.
You can put silicone and DTF on this to create different types of finishes depending on, again, what the customer type is.
Yeah.
Or some of the options they were giving with Stanley Seller were doing their talk around how to style it. You might go, you could perhaps layer this up with a gilet, or even you can go Oxford shirt and then oversized shirt over the top of it. Quite a lot often as well.
Yep.
So there's different ways of approaching it, but it all comes down to you want enough similarity throughout the pack so everyone could stand together and they've got some sort of common theme running through it.
Colors, decoration, branding, that kind of thing.
You don't want to be let's say there's 5 colors of Oxford shirt. You don't want to be tell them to pick a color. Be no, pick 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So there's always something common running through. So let's say you have a big customer come in, you want everyone to look unified and smart together. There's something that ties everyone together, but then they can wear it with jeans, they can maybe wear it with a skirt, they can wear it with shoes, they can wear it with trainers.
Yeah.
They can put their own twist on it, so they still have that level of comfort and identity that they perhaps
wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, so where it might just be it's a white shirt and black trousers and black shoes, and maybe there's a jacket.
Yeah.
But this time you could always if someone's wearing someone could be wearing a white t-shirt and a shirt, but then another person's wearing the same white t-shirt and perhaps a navy zip or something like that.
Yeah,
or a crew neck,
jacket, or
jacket.
depending on how formal the meeting might be. It might be that some people wear the beige coloured Oxford shirts and other people wear neutral coloured hoodies with t-shirts, that kind of thing.
Or like you might go for, I've got a Nimbus hoodie here, which has got the thicker drawstrings on them.
Very nice
It's got
quality.
a slightly chunkier hood on it, so it just sits a bit different, and it's got a slightly more tailored fit with some little faux leather patches on it. Again, looks good with silicone, but I could swap this out, and it's got the same silicone patches that you have on there, and if we were standing next to each other, we'd still look part of the same team.
Yeah, like this is branded exactly the same as the shirt that I'm wearing. If someone stood next to me in that, you look very, very similar.
Look part of the set.
White
so that
t-shirt,
could be
same thing.
So that could be the 3 smart days and the 2 casual days that way.
Yeah.
So you can very easily combine different types together, so that maybe even throw in like a casual hat, because again, same product, more or less the same color white on there. So it'd be very easy to pair them together and create a nice set. So anyone that is used to doing like workwear sets, and there's 3 high vises, there's a high vis jacket, maybe 2, some workwear trousers, some polos and some t-shirts. Just think about swapping the products around a little bit. So, actually want to offer you a pack with 3 shirts, 5 t-shirts and 2 hoods, and maybe a polo and a hat and maybe a nice bag or accessory, something like that to pair together.
And then whatever they choose to wear for that particular day of the week, everyone looks consistently branded and professional, regardless of how far down like the comfort level
especially if there's any kind of customer facing element or pitching element to it. It means that then their clients are always going to be like, that they all look smart together, but those are always on brand together as well.
Yeah, even if it is t-shirts and hoodies, if you're all wearing the same t-shirt or the same hoodie, you're going to look smarter than if everyone just rocks up in their own random workwear shirt.
Yeah, and then you can play around with textures a bit with how you decorate it. Maybe you put some DTF on the hoodie or the t-shirt, and then you might pair it with silicone, which again doesn't really, compared to the actual price you could sell this product for, is very reasonable to just put like a little silica patch, or sometimes a smaller patch, so that you're actually buying less to achieve more as well that way.
That comes down to understanding the customer and what they want as well, though, because there are a lot of decoration options and a lot of high quality decoration options that you can offer people now. But going back to your point originally about understanding what the hybrid situation is of the office, whether or not they have a lot of meetings, the level of seniority they're buying for depends on what level of decoration you offer. So if it is something that's a bit more, black and white on the branding, for example, it might be easier just to have a silicone or a 1-color Inktra or something like that. But if it's a company that is a little bit, maybe it's like a media company or an ad agency, and they've got a bit more color in their logo, and they think, we could get away with something a bit more full color, then you can start to explore your DTFs, your Ultra Color Pros, all of that side of the decoration.
Or even like a fluorescent ink.
Neon, that's one of my favorites at the moment.
So that there's lots of options you've got to provide these people. That's the main thing, is that there's opportunity for demand, because people are searching for it. Businesses are getting people back in, and also the product is ready for you to actually help and provide a good option for them as well. Like, you've got the acid wash polo there, which again is like a nice variation on acid wash t-shirts, and oversized t-shirts have been very popular and will be that way for quite a while.
Yeah,
but
compared to black,
again ties into trends but still being smart at the same time.
So you could maybe put someone in this and then put somebody else in like an acid wash hoodie, for example. And regardless of whether they're like, maybe this is like in the office on a Friday and someone else is working from home, but the material and the color composition of the garment that they're wearing is still the same. The decoration is still the same, but it's definitely a lot more trendy than. I'm not knocking the plain black polo. It definitely still has a place in the market, but I know a lot of people that if you were to offer them this versus this, they'd pick this one all day long.
Because, that it's combining the corporate and the trend together and kind of meeting in the middle a little bit.
Yeah, this is lovely. And this is actually unisex as well.
Exactly. So again, like people who are used to wearing unisex t-shirts perhaps at home can be like, well, actually I can still carry on that level of comfort, what I like, and then just pair it with something else decorate it nice and comfortably. And, you know, there's a great perceived value to these products as well, because you're going to be pitching it to perhaps a slightly more affluent customer from what they're comfortable spending. You know, if you're going to start from the top down, where they might be, you know, in their personal life, what they would spend on something might be different to what you personally as a decorator would spend on something. But that's why it's important to think, oh, well, what would they pay for it? That's what's important. You're not buying it, you're selling it to them. So let them pay more money for an expensive jacket with a nice shirt and a nice t-shirt.
With good decoration.
You know, you can combine many worlds together. I've got the middle oversized Bella Canvas t-shirt on underneath there with the Stanley Seller shirt, which I'm sure they both wouldn't be very happy about that, but you know,
but you've got to mix and match in today's day and age.
That's what I'm saying. All their tailoring, you wouldn't necessarily think that a slightly heavyweight Bella Canvas t-shirt would be classed as corporate workwear.
But when you compare it with other items in the bundle and you link it to trends and what people have a preference for, that's where it ties together.
Yeah, but what is, it's a slightly more oversized, but it gives you that level of comfort, but the tailoring is there. It's not like it fits nicely, decorates nicely, it's nice and bright and white and punchy. So it can be combined with other stuff that you know, and provide it to customers you wouldn't normally approach that way.
Agreed.
So shall we do some decorating?
We can do some decorating, yeah. Do we have any questions on the live? Who's joining us this week? Anything on what we've just said?
As usual, everyone's quite quiet at the moment.
Okay, well, if anyone has offered corporate workwear to anyone already and has some feedback on how they came, how that went, I would love to hear that. Or if you're thinking about corporate workwear, you know, what does that mean to you? And if that's, think about how your perception on that might be changed, but do make sure you go and search around the subject, because you'll be staggered by just how much opportunity there is.
So with the actual decoration process today, we're going to decorate multiple items like Andy's just mentioned. So we've got the Oxford shirt that we're both wearing. We're going to decorate one of those. We're also going to decorate the polos as well, which I think is going to be probably one of the more popular items with inkjet transfers for not just corporate workwear, but also your more industrial workwear, I guess you could call that, customer.
You could put, someone who's working perhaps on something a bit more mechanical or labor heavy, they could still wear. Why shouldn't they have a nice polo shirt?
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, these are really nice quality as well. So the repeat wear, the washing that you're going to have, regardless of whether you are doing manual labor or sitting in an office, if you're wearing something all day, you're going to wash it at the end of the day. And if you're only offering somebody 5 days worth of stuff, they're going to wash that a lot. So you want it to be good quality. You want it to last. So that not only comes down to the quality of garment that you choose, which we've been over, but also the decoration method you choose and how you go about decorating it, which is what we're going to cover in a second. So one of the common questions that we got asked at the Workwear Reimagine event was, how do I eliminate scorching? If I'm printing onto polyester polos or even some 100% cotton black polos and t-shirts do mark up sometimes when you're scorching them, more so because of the color and when you put heat on them and pressure that it squishes the fabric. So we've got a little workaround for everyone today on how to avoid and eliminate scorch marks. So I'll walk you through all of it as we do it. Should we move over to the press? We're just going to have a little rejig of set for a second. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to start with the Oxford shirt today, because I think this is one that everybody at the event was very, I want to say intrigued by when it comes to actually how to heat print them and how easy it is to heat print them as well. So this is the blue version of the shirt that I'm wearing and the one that Andy is wearing as well. And it's really, really lovely fabric. Like we've said before, it's a good quality. It's comfortable to wear. It doesn't feel stiff and scratchy like traditional workwear shirts do. So in order to heat print this, my first step would obviously be to load it onto the heat press. Now, threading being one of the most important factors here, because you want to make sure you're not squishing the two layers of the shirt together. You want to make sure you're isolating the area you want to print on, which in today's case, we're going to do a left chest placement. However, if I load this onto my heat press, just as it is, you'll notice that when I do on a 40 by 50 platen, which is what the majority of you will have, if you load it on, you've got the issue of not just the collar here, which we can push off and eliminate for pressure purposes, but we still have the buttons and the seams down the middle. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can combat this. If you have a heat press with interchangeable plattens, you can just pop out the 40x51 and replace it with a slightly smaller platen. However, at the event, we use the heat printing pillows. And I personally really like this option because it means that you can still see from a placement point of view where you're putting your transfer. And I just find it easier if I've got like the whole shirt to go off of rather than just the isolated area. So I place my heat print pillow onto the platen, load my shirt back on like so, still pulling that collar off because we don't need unnecessary additions on there. And then what's going to happen when we bring the press back round is it's going to push these buttons and the extra seams and materials into the shirt, which will create that perfectly flat surface area that we all want. Now, the reason we need a complete flat surface area to print on is because Hotronix heat presses are very, very accurate, and the pressure reading that it will give us will be from the highest point on the shirt, not the flat point that we want the transfer to apply to. Now, if it's reading the pressure from the button or the double layer of fabric, for example, that might read it as a 4 or a 5, but the way you're putting your transfer is not going to be a pressure of a 4 or a 5. So that's one of the 3 elements, time, temperature, and pressure, that's not going to be accurate. And pressure is arguably one of the most important factors when heat printing. So that's why we go with the pillow or an interchangeable platen before we've even started to heat print, before we put any decoration on there, is understanding the surface area that you're working with. Going to cover it with some release paper just to give it a little bit of protection, and then we're going to bring that press back round to carry out our pre-press. Now I'm just going to do this for 5 seconds. Especially with these shirts as well, they're a lot smoother and they're not as stiff as traditional workwear shirts, but they do still crease up a little bit. So we'll remove that, and then we are going to apply our silicone heat transfers today. Now this is what we're wearing on our shirts. These are 700 microns thick. These are our newest heat transfers that we have available. These do not require any weeding. That's one of the most common questions we get around our 3D silicone transfers, is the fact that you do not have to cut them and you don't have to weed them like high build vinyl. All you do is order your one color artwork online, and then they come ready to be heat pressed like this. If I bring it super close to the camera, you should be able to see how thick that is on there. Really, really nice. So this is what we're going to be applying today. So we're going for left chest. Now we also get a lot of questions around placement for left chest. So one of the hacks that we like to use here, especially when decorating on a shirt, because it's got a nice stiff collar, which is great for actually referring to where it's supposed to be. So where your actual collar sort of meets the shoulder seam should be the center of your design. And then I tend to use either the base of like the arm, or where the second button sits is often a good place as well. So I'm just going to turn my back to the camera while we do this to make sure it's accurate. And then you can apply heat tape as well if you want to. If you get it in place and want to make sure it doesn't move, by all means, you can tape it down. I'm going to go rogue today and just hope that the release paper and the press don't move it as we bring it back around. We won't put this one on the display rails if it doesn't work. Okay, and then we're just going to fuse it. Do we have any questions on silicone, on the corporate shirts, on time, temperature, pressure?
Somebody's asked what quantity you can buy silicone in.
Silicone transfers, I want to say 25, is that accurate? Yes,
yeah.
So you have to order a minimum of 25. They are single color artwork, so you can only order like black, white, any Pantone that you like. They are Pantone match, but the actual artwork files themselves have to be single color. And they come in a 6x6 or a 10x10 as well. So perfect for left chest placements, perfect for branding. That carrier just lifted itself off as well. And just like that, if I remove this shirt from the press, you can see there we've got a really nicely branded Oxford shirt. I do it close up, there we go. Can see how lovely that silicone looks. It's matte as well. It's one of my personal favorite things about this new transfer is that it has got a matte finish. I absolutely love it. So that's literally how easy it is to decorate a corporate shirt. It's not difficult. And this is a premium decoration as well. This is a 700 micron 3D silicone decoration on a really nice corporate shirt that you are going to be able to charge more for. And it's not difficult. So I think a lot of people at the event were surprised at how easy they were to decorate in comparison to what they thought it was going to be. But yeah, depending on the decoration method you choose, this one is super simple. I would do exactly the same steps if I was applying our ink to transfer, for example. So this, again, single color transfers, but they're smooth, really, really thin on the garment. They feel like they are meant to be there, as opposed to, you know, a little bit raised. So whether or not you want a chunky finish or you want something that feels like it's embedded into the garment, there's options for both of those there, and they're both Pantone match as well. So if you're printing for bigger corporate customers that have specific logo colors and branding, you can make sure to match that 100% to what you're printing as well. So that's how easy it is to do the corporate shirt. I feel like that should have taken longer and I should have filled more time with that.
Yeah, so something to bear in mind is that these silicone 700 microns, but again, you don't feel it on that shirt at all. Like, you would never know it was there because it's got such a nice
doesn't feel like it
on there.
No, especially from the inside as well, that you can't feel that.
No. And something to just bear in mind is, you know, we've spoken a lot over the last couple of years about, you know, the good, better, best option. Sometimes that's just the case of here's 3 white t-shirts and they're varying it together in price, but actually this comes down to, like, this is the best option. So, you know, this is the aspirational option that you're going to provide to your customers. And, you know, when they say yes, it's better to give them just a better, but rather than just like, here's something just a bit more expensive and a little bit more technical. Here's the best version of you as a business that you're trying to picture them. And then some of them are going to be like, well, we're the best.
Yeah, we have to have the best. Of course, we want all of our employees to be wearing the most premium. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So that's how easy it is to decorate the corporate, the Oxford shirts. Now we're going to do polos next. And I'm unsure whether or not this acid wash one is actually going to scorch, but we'll give it a go. I'm going to go with the same principle of the pillow because we've got the collar and of course the buttons at the top on a polo, as you would expect. So same principle here, but we're going to, again, put some 3D silicone on this and create something that would match. So let's say, for example, you work for, or your client is a car garage or something like that, and you want the salespeople out the front to be wearing the Oxford shirt, but you want the mechanics and the people carrying out all of the service and the manual labor, you want them to be wearing something a bit more comfortable and a bit more movable, like the polo shirt. But of course, they all have to be in the same branding. So we're going to go with another silicone transfer today. We're going to match it up. So for placement, the same principle applies. I'm going to go down from the corner of the neckline just to create the center, and then using the base of the arm and the bottom here for a guide. And then using release paper. Now, if this does scorch, which I think it might with 25 seconds under the heat, we'll go through the arch method, which is our foolproof guide for eliminating scorch marks on garments, especially darker garments like the one that we're decorating on here. "20 seconds feels like a really long time when you...
The air fusion is a good option as well for anyone that is doing corporate workwear, where you might be switching between thickness of garments. It means that Molly's not having to change the pressure at all here. She's just shirt, polo shirt, t-shirt, doesn't matter.
Pillow.
It's got that auto regulation built into it, so it just makes your life so much easier as well.
Feels like a long time, but it's quicker than embroidery.
It's a lot quicker than embroidery. So this has got a slight mark on it. You can see ever so slightly. Oh, it doesn't look too bad.
It's showing up.
Yeah, there's a bit of a line there, but so we'll go through how to avoid that if you are printing on these. But you can see here, even on this acid wash, this all black silicone transfer looks really good. And this will match, obviously, the garment that we've just decorated, which is the Oxford shirt. So straight away, you've taken something that's got a bit of a retail trend to it with this acid wash fabric, and you've put a really nice quality branding on there. And again, like Andy said, you can't really feel that, as much as it is a chunkier decoration than what you're used to or what your customer might be used to. You can't feel it on the garment because it is such a good quality. And yeah, it looks really, really nice. I think the silicone almost makes it feel more premium in a way when you look at it. I love it.
And, you know, the reaction that you're going to see from your customer, and your customer's going to get from their staff who are actually going to wear it. They're going to be like, wow, this is, they've stepped up a level in terms of what they're offering us here.
So let's talk about the arch method for a little bit before we move on to any other questions. So when you are decorating onto slightly more sensitive fabrics, you want to run through what we call the arch method, and that stands for accurate pressure, reduced temperature transfers, cover sheets, and heated lower platens. Now, when you are decorating onto dark garments, the first thing that we spoke about initially when I started fusing on this live was the pressure. Now, if you're using a Hotronix heat press, pressure tends to be between 4 and 6 for medium, which is what everyone should be aiming for. If you're pressing at a 6 and you're getting a slight scorch mark like we were on that acid wash kind of polo, then I would reduce the pressure down slightly. So at the moment we're on like a 5, which is like a mid-range. I would bring that down to a 4 and press again and see if that brings down the marking on the shirt, because the less force and the less pressure you're putting through that shirt, the less you're going to crush the fibers and the less marking there's going to be. I wouldn't go any lower than a 4 because that's the baseline for medium pressure of what we recommend for transfer longevity, but you can go from 4 to 6 and that still be a recommended application. So step number 1, if you are having problems with scorching, is check your pressure and bring it down if you can. The second step being reduced temperature transfers. Now, we are fusing with silicone and Inctra, which applies at 160. However, we have transfer options that apply all the way down to 120 degrees. That's a 40-degree difference in heat that you're putting through that garment. So combine that with the pressure that you're going to be taking off the garment. I would say 90% of the time that will probably fix your scorch marks that you're having. So if you adjust your pressure and you're still having problems, then consider switching to a different transfer. Ultracolor being our go-to for sensitive garments because it does fuse at 120 degrees. And even though this is a full color transfer, you can order single color through this. So if your customer does want a plain black or a plain white, but you know you want that lower temperature transfer, you can just order single colors. That's what we did for the winter warm-up event. That's what we did for the Athleisure Decorating Expo. Anything that's slightly sensitive, we always go to ultracolor. It's the best option. If you do those 2 steps and that still leaves you with some scorching and a few marks on your garment, then we move on to cover sheets. I've been fusing on this live so far with release paper, which all of you will be familiar with. It's just a thin sheet of parchment paper which protects your garment, the press, and against any accidents if you accidentally put something upside down, for example. However, where did I put it? It's here. If you are fusing onto something that's a bit more sensitive, I'd recommend maybe switching to something like a Grip Flex, which is a bit thicker. So you've probably all seen me use these on the live before, but this is a thicker rubber sheet. It is, oh, I've just broken it. How the hell did that happen?
It must be because these new workwear shirts are so much looser. Like the guns have got a bit more room to work with.
Okay, so don't break your Grip Flex sheet, but these are, see, normally you can pull them, and I've obviously pulled that way too much on a previous live, and it's completely split in half. But the Grip Flex rubber sheets are fantastic for creating like that barrier between the garment and the heat that you're putting through to it. Are you okay there, Beth?
This is
moment.
Definitely what happens when you let other staff members from Styles loose in the showroom at a live event, and you start to find things have been played around with.
But I mean,
probably someone
that's not break. That's
someone
not
was probably started to cut that open to give someone a sample to take away, and then forgot about it.
Either way, it's still a Grip Flex sheet. Still proves the point. So use a whole Grip Flex sheet because that's not going to cover the entire 40x50 platen. Don't split it in half, but utilize the fact that this is a much thicker sheet. And Beth, that's not helping. Utilize the fact that it's a much thicker sheet and it will block a lot of the heat that comes through from the press onto the actual garment itself. So first step, use a slightly lighter pressure. Second step, utilize a lower temperature transfer. Third step, use a thicker cover sheet if you're still having problems. And the fourth step being using heated lower platens. Now, you might have all seen us use before the power platens that we've got. I haven't got one out today, but essentially what the power platen does is brings heat from the lower platen. So rather than the standard 40 by 50 that we've got on the Air Fusion at the moment, you can get platens that have heated rods in them, and they provide the heat for the application from the underneath of the garment rather than from the top. So you can reduce the temperature from the top of the heat press, meaning that any scorch marks that there might be will be on the inside of the garment. So that's your 4-step process to completely eliminating scorch marks. Now, we've seen much success with this. A lot of customers that have come to us with problems have really seen positive results with this. And 9 times out of 10, they don't even need to use the entire process of the arch method. They get to step maybe 2 or 3, and they find that either using a different transfer type with a different temperature or using a slightly thicker cover sheet does the job just fine. But there are 4 stages and 4 options. So if you have a really sensitive garment that you're struggling with, we definitely will be able to fix the scorch mark problem with that, with the 4-step process. So yeah, any questions on the arch method?
No, but somebody did say that they've been avoiding printing polo shirts until now, which is good.
Yeah.
That means they'll give it a go.
Yeah, so if you're printing onto polos and you aren't experiencing scorch marks, I'll just reiterate, make sure you're either using a changing lower platen or you're using a pillow so that you are utilizing the accurate pressure readout of your heat press. Make sure you're not getting those buttons in the way, the collars, make sure you're isolating your print area for accurate time, temperature and pressure. And yeah, you should be good to go. I'd like to know what you're printing on them as well. Is it silicone? Is it Inktra? What are you going for?
Something I would like to point out as well is with regards to scorch marks as well, like the one you had earlier, with a slight one, is like, don't make your decisions on whether something is scorched straight away.
You mean leave it for 24 hours?
When you're especially when you're first testing new polo shirts in particular, leave them an hour, 2 hours, 24 hours, and then come back and see, because now in my experience, some of these will just fade out, naturally. Like, so once it's cooled down, they're gone. I remember we were fusing one last year, and it was when we did the challenge with Dave, and I had that bright red crew neck, and by like 10 minutes later during the live, it was completely gone.
Yeah, see, that has significantly changed since we initially did it. Yeah.
So make sure, do think about that as when you like your product selection, your process of when does this product make it to the customer. Because if that's gone by tomorrow, then at that point you don't need the arch method. You just carry on as normal.
Yeah.
But if it's still in there tomorrow, then you're like, okay, now I need to use the arch method.
Yeah, especially for things like you say, red garments. 9 times out of 10, it is just the heat changing the color of it, and then it will bring itself back if you leave it for 24 to 48 hours. So testing is something that we are big advocates for here, and we always recommend you test before you offer a new product or a new service to your business. So that goes for new garments and scorching as well. Do we have anything else to add to the live today, or shall we wrap up?
Not from my side. I think
like, you're talking to me? Yes, I am.
I think I spoke for a little bit too long probably earlier, so I think...
What is the time out of interest?
It's
5 to 1. Okay, perfect. Well, that's around about an hour for a live, so yeah.
There's a big opportunity.
Do you want to come and say this on camera?
I probably should do some
Standing in the corner to everyone watching.
This is genuinely a big opportunity. People's tastes and trends are changing. The blanks are changing. There's a reason they bring out Oxford shirts and like lighter, oversized workwear shirts, is because they know that the trends are changing. They have so much data to prove this. So do think about this, because your customers are going to be asking for it. And if you can tell them about it first and lead them on this, then you're going to be, puts you in a strong position in terms of their, how they perceive you as a supplier.
It's what we say all the time about levers, isn't it? People might not go for the option of full color, but if you're the one offering it to them, they see you as the expert in garment decoration. Same goes for blank garments. If you're the one that's in there first with new options and new trends, then they're going to think you're the one that knows what you're doing. Give them some data, tell them about how their employees are thinking about this workwear. So you're guiding them a bit, because they won't know how to speak about it internally probably. So take them by the hand, tell them about what to think about, what options to give. Don't just be like, do you want corporate workwear? Just be like, this is what's trending. This is what you should be offering. This is what you're going to be expecting. Give them a few options, make that good, better, best. One of them be workwear, a shirt. So they've got something, but get into the detail about their culture and how they approach their work balance for employees, because that's how you can offer them the best options in terms of what blend of products you're going to and understanding them and what they're. It's really important to understand and take that time, but they'll really enjoy the fact you've listened, learned, and provided them something they actually want. So So that's it for today's live. Thank you very much to everyone that joined us. If you are watching this back after we've been live on our YouTube channel, then leave us a comment if you have any questions and we'll make sure to get back to you. But until then, we've got a podcast episode dropping on Monday, which we're very excited for. It's been a while since we've released a podcast. And we've also got some new YouTube content coming up, which is going to be very fun and very exciting. So make sure you're subscribed and we'll see you in a couple of weeks with another live.